the period when civilization retreated and the frontiers of knowledge contracted. Progress, as we might understand it, was impeded by the lack of energy. Biomass continued to be fuel until society entered its second energy age, the age of coal. And humans have used coal for many centuries. Indians in North America were mining exposed coal seams for energy as early as the 14th century. But it was in the 18th century, right here in the UK, that coal established itself as the energy source behind the Industrial Revolution, probably the most transformative period in history. New coal-fired furnaces allowed large quantities of iron to be mass-produced at lower costs. And coal revolutionized transport, powering a new generation of steam trains across Britain. Thanks to these technological innovations and a ready supply of coal, Britain grew to become the foremost manufacturing nation in the world. The growing economy brought with it a remarkable period of political reform, intellectual debate, and social change. But it also sparked a demographic boom of historic proportions. Britain's population more than trebled during the 19th century, with a growing proportion living in cities, sometimes in squalid conditions. Overcrowding was common, disease was rife, and pollution was a major problem. Once again, we can observe the Janus face of energy, the power behind social progress, yet the cause of significant social problems. And that's the pattern we see repeated today in the third age, the age of hydrocarbons. Crude oil, in particular, has had a profound effect on society. Transport fuels made from oil, whether for boats, cars, or planes, allow human beings to traverse the globe in a manner unthinkable 50 years ago. Not only is it the single largest fuel source in our energy mix, oil is the key ingredient in the production of important products, such as lubricants and plastics. Natural gas, too, is an extremely versatile substance used to produce fertilizers and to heat people's homes, as well as to generate electricity. These two fuels are often found together, extracted together, and even lend their names to a distinctly modern type of business, the oil and gas company. They've shaped the world we live in, but our dependence on them poses a number of problems. Ensuring a sustainable supply of hydrocarbons for the future is primary amongst them. Arguments about an imminent peak in oil and gas production are grossly overstated. In the past decade, proven reserves of both fuels have either grown in line or outpaced the rise in demand. The concerns about the concentration of energy reserves in the hands of very few nations, often located in politically insecure regions of the world, are important. The OPEC cartel controls more than 3/4 of global oil reserves, accounting for nearly half of total production. And more than half of the world's remaining proven gas reserves exist in just 3 countries: Russia, Iraq, Iran, and Gaza. Another potentially more critical issue is the environmental damage caused by our continued use of carbon-rich fuels. Despite some recent re-evaluation of scientific evidence, climate change remains a present danger, and the devastating Gulf of Mexico spill is a reminder of the significant local environmental risks of extracting hydrocarbons. Fortunately, this combination of energy challenges points to a single solution: the transition to the fourth and hopefully final energy period, the age of sustainable energy. Because only when the world's energy is truly sustainable, secure and affordable, as well as environmentally friendly, can we say that social progress too is on a sustainable path. Responding to the great need for change, policymakers across the world have introduced a raft of measures to accelerate transition to a new energy age. In China, government leaders have announced stretching targets to improve energy efficiency, while in the US, President Obama's administration is pressing once again to pass a new energy bill through Congress. Here in Europe, the EU countries have agreed to a joint emissions target for 2020 and introduced a mandatory cross-border emissions trading scheme for many businesses. What these policies have in common is that they seek to enhance government influence over energy choices made in the market. They each have as their goal the transition from a world of very few high-carbon energy sources to a lower-carbon energy mix based on renewables and fossil fuel power generation fitted with carbon capture technology. But policy alone will not make the low-carbon revolution. The role of scientists and engineers will be critical, whether it be in developing new technologies for consumers, applying systems-level thinking to the way we approach social problems, or constructing the iconic clean power stations of the future. So I'd like to use the rest of my comments this morning to outline what scientists and engineers, maybe some of you in today's audience, can do to bring about this most critical fourth age of energy. I see action on three fronts. The first will be to help societies use less energy. Using less energy is the cheapest and most simple way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve energy security, and save money at the same time. It is a triple win. That means influencing people to change their behaviour, encouraging them to become more conscious of the energy they use and to curb wasteful practices. For example, turning off lights in unused rooms, avoiding cars for short journeys, or recycling more of the household waste. A good place to start will be to make consumers pay a fair price for energy. Recent figures suggest that governments around the world spend more than $500 billion each year subsidizing the cost of fossil fuels. That's more than 10 times the amount spent on subsidizing renewable fuels. The International Energy Agency estimates that removing these distorting subsidies would reduce global energy demand by around 5%, an amount equivalent to the current energy consumption of Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand combined. The scientific community will play a critical role in convincing governments and ordinary consumers that such change is necessary in the age of sustainable energy. And that's because scientists occupy a privileged position in society. They are expert witnesses to the climatic shifts going on around us, and they are often trusted by the general public. Strong and repeated messages, supported by the latest scientific evidence, will, over time, help to convince people that decisive action on climate change is needed sooner rather than later. The scientists may now be in danger of losing their privileged status. Recent controversy surrounding secretive research methods and the inclusion of non-peer-reviewed work in leading climate studies has overshadowed the debate. And one lesson I've learned in my career in business is that transparency is the key to regaining public trust, because it's only when people can see what you are doing that they can learn to trust your actions. The same is true for science. According to Karl Popper, the philosopher, all science is provisional. It can never be fully proved, only disproved in light of new evidence, opening up your research findings to critical peer reviews at the very heart of what scientific understanding is about. With that in mind, it's crucial that all relevant evidence is considered in building a scientific consensus. The second battlefront in the age of sustainable energy will be to improve energy efficiency. Not all energy use is discretionary. A certain amount of energy is required to improve standards of living and to protect socially important activities. But we can still reduce energy use in these areas. Where an activity is perceived to have some useful social value, it's important that we learn to achieve the same results using less energy in the future. So, technology in innovation in product design will help consumers improve personal efficiency in their everyday lives. For example, LED technology. Fuel cells could one day replace gas boilers, and paving the way not only towards the delivery of heat, but also electricity. And in transport, thanks to the introduction of electric motors and strong lightweight materials, the efficiency of the internal combustion engine is improving over time. A second way in which science and technology can help improve energy efficiency is the redesign of urban systems. With more than half of the world's population now living in urban areas, engineers and scientists are now beginning to look at city landscapes afresh, using a systems-level approach to redesign key networks. For example, an interactive smart grid can enable households and businesses to respond to real-time prices, selling energy back to the grid or reducing demand when the system is fully loaded. The technologies involved are relatively simple, but making them work, integrating systems and designing them for practical use is much more complex. It not only requires engineering ingenuity, but also strong policy leadership to encourage people to give novelty a chance. Which brings me to my third and final battlefront in the age of sustainable energy, developing the new, lower carbon energy sources of the future. At present, more than 80% of the world's energy is derived from just 3 fossil fuels: oil, gas and coal. Yet there are already a plethora of technology options which can be scaled up to provide alternative sources of energy, whether it's solar in the Mediterranean, wind on the Great Plains of America and China, or marine renewables right here in the UK. The opportunities are numerous, and technology innovation is happening all the time. Wind turbines are already moving from onshore to offshore, a process being pursued at great pace here in the UK. An offshore location presents new operational challenges, but also a tremendous opportunity to increase turbine size and experiment with platform design. In transport, second-generation biofuels made from a diverse range of non-food crops, such as algae and willow, can generate greater fuel yields in an environmentally sustainable way. And energy innovation is also happening beyond renewables. Science and technology is continuing to transform the way we think about conventional energy sources. Nuclear is a good example. At present, around 16% of the world's energy is generated by nuclear power plants. For more than 50 years, it's been a vital source of stable, low-carbon power. But its share of power capacity has been on the decline since the 90s. Vocal public opposition and environmental concerns about waste have prevented further innovation in this area. And this is set to change. Recently, policymakers have been reawakened to the potential of nuclear energy in a low-carbon energy mix. New plants are scheduled for construction in China, the Middle East, and across Europe, including right here in the UK. A new generation of nuclear scientists and engineers are now urgently needed to drive this revolution forward. So it is in these 3 areas, using less energy, improving energy efficiency, and developing new sources of clean energy, that science and technology will have most to offer in the age of sustainable energy. The world stands on the brink of its latest energy revolution, and it's an exciting time to be a young scientist or engineer. Science and technology hold the key to unlocking a sustainable energy future, a future where energy is secure, affordable, and generated in tune with the